I spent years trying to save my marriage without ever realizing it was already gone. Not broken, not cracked, not struggling. Gone. Like it had slipped out from under me long before I even noticed the floor was missing. If you've ever clung to something you thought was worth saving, only to find out you were the only one holding on, then maybe you'll understand what I'm about to say. I honestly believed my husband, Ethan, and I were just going through a rough patch. Work stress, family stuff, not enough quality time, all the usual explanations you give yourself when someone you love starts drifting away. And I kept telling myself, it's just a phase. Except phases don't last 3 years. They don't hollow you out. They don't make you feel invisible in your own home. But Ethan did. Not intentionally, at least not at first. His cruelty wasn't loud or obvious. It was quiet, passive, the kind that doesn't stab you, but slowly drains you until you don't recognize yourself anymore. It started the year after his father remarried. I remember the wedding vividly because it was the first and only time I met the woman who would eventually destroy my marriage without ever meaning to, his stepsister. Her name was Lily. She was 22 at the time, 7 years younger than Ethan. Bright-eyed, soft-spoken, the kind of girl you'd describe as sweet, even if you just met her for 5 minutes. I didn't think twice about her. Why would I? She was family. But the truth is, I didn't understand then what I know now. Some bonds don't stay sibling-like just because they're supposed to. Some bonds bend into something else, something inappropriate, something dangerous. I wish I had seen the signs sooner. Maybe I would have saved myself years of humiliation. Maybe I wouldn't have wasted so much time loving a man who never truly loved me back. But hindsight is cruel like that. It shows you the truth only after the truth no longer matters. Looking back, I can pinpoint the exact moment things began to shift. It was the night Lily called Ethan crying because she'd broken up with her boyfriend. I remember waking up to the sound of his phone buzzing nonstop. He slipped out of bed quietly, not to avoid waking me, but because he didn't even consider telling me where he was going. When he came back an hour later, he looked conflicted, tense, shaken, like comforting his stepsister had stirred something in him he didn't want to acknowledge. "Is she okay?" I asked. He nodded too quickly. "Yeah, she's fine, just upset." But he didn't climb back into bed right away. He sat on the edge, staring at the floor, lost in thought. His shoulders were tight, his jaw was clenched, and even though he didn't say a word, something in my gut twisted. For the first time, I felt like an outsider in my own marriage. He didn't talk about Lily again for a while, but something in him shifted after that night. He became distant in this strange, distracted way I couldn't put my finger on. It wasn't anger or resentment, it was like he was preoccupied by something he didn't know how to admit. And every time his phone buzzed, his eyes flickered with a guilt he tried to hide. When I finally asked if she was doing okay, he tried to sound casual. "She's fine. We've just been talking a little more. She's going through a lot." But he wouldn't look at me when he said it. Weeks passed, and Lily became a nightly presence in our home, even when she wasn't physically there. I'd hear her name more. "Lily said this." "Lily's thinking about moving." "Lily needs advice." It wasn't outright inappropriate, but I could feel the energy shifting. I wasn't competing with another woman. I was competing with a version of Lily he kept inside his head. The version he wished he'd met first. It wasn't until months later, when her apartment lease ended suddenly, that everything truly spiraled. Ethan came home looking tense, almost excited, and said, "So, Lily might need a place to stay, just for a little while, until she figures things out." My heart dropped. "Here?" He shrugged like it was obvious. "She doesn't have anyone else right now." I stood there, gripping the edge of the counter so tightly my knuckles went white. "You didn't think to talk to me first." His expression hardened in a way that told me he'd already made the decision long before I entered the conversation. "She's family," he said. "I thought you'd understand." Understand what? That my husband's entire emotional world revolved around a woman who wasn't me? I swallowed the sting in my chest and nodded slowly. "Of course, if she needs somewhere to stay, we'll help." Even though every part of me was screaming, "Don't do this!" When Lily moved in, I knew instantly that everything I had feared was real. She lit up when she saw Ethan, jumped into his arms, buried her face into his shoulder like she'd been holding her breath for years and was finally allowed to exhale. "God, I missed you," she whispered. I froze in the hallway, watching the embrace drag on far too long to be sibling-like. Ethan's hand slid instinctively to her waist before he caught himself, but I saw it, and she saw it, and we both pretended we didn't. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, while Ethan stayed downstairs with her until 2 in the morning. I could hear them laughing softly, telling stories, reminiscing about things he'd never once mentioned to me in 6 years of knowing him. They had a whole world I wasn't part of. And I think that was the moment I realized I wasn't paranoid. I was unwanted. The emotional affair unfolded in slow motion. A late-night movie here. A we're just talking moment there. She'd curl up beside him on the couch, and he wouldn't move away. She'd playfully hit his shoulder, and he'd blush like a teenager. She'd talk about her insecurities, and he'd comfort her with a softness I'd begged for in our marriage for years. One night, I walked into the kitchen and saw them standing too close, her hand resting on his chest while she laughed at something he whispered. They jerked away when they saw me. My throat tightened. I didn't mean to interrupt. "You didn't," Lily said quickly, backing up with a shy smile. "We were just talking." Ethan avoided my eyes. I excused myself and cried in the bathroom silently so neither of them would hear. 2 weeks later, I finally asked Ethan if he was happy. He blinked like it was a bizarre question. "What do you mean?" "You just seem far away lately." He rubbed the back of his neck, uncomfortable. "I'm just stressed." "Because of work or because of Lily?" His jaw clenched and his expression hardened into something defensive. "Why would you even ask that?" "Because you're always with her," I said quietly. "Because you talk to her more than you talk to me. Because you smile at her in ways you haven't smiled at me in years." He pushed his chair back sharply. "You're being dramatic." "Am I?" Because it felt like I was slowly being erased. "No," I whispered. "I'm being honest." He sighed heavily, tired of me, tired of this conversation. "Can we not do this right now?" So I dropped it. Until the night I couldn't ignore it anymore. I woke up around 1 in the morning to find Ethan's side of the bed empty again. The glow from the living room filtered down the hall, along with quiet murmurs. I crept out of bed and walked toward the sound. My heart sank when I saw them. They were sitting on the couch, legs touching, faces inches apart. Lily was crying softly, and Ethan was wiping her tears with his thumb. My husband, wiping another woman's tears like she was the most fragile thing in the world. "I don't know what I'd do without you," she whispered. "You'll never have to find out," he murmured back, his voice warm, intimate in a way I had begged for. I stepped back into the shadow and covered my mouth to keep from making a sound. I knew then that I had already lost him. The next morning I asked Ethan straight out, "Do you have feelings for her?" He froze. The silence that followed was loud enough to shatter me. "I don't know," he finally said. "You don't know," I repeated. "You don't know if you're in love with your stepsister?" "She's not really my sister," he snapped. I felt something inside me collapse. "Do you want this marriage?" He hesitated, then said the words that tore the last threads between us. "I don't think so anymore." And suddenly everything made sense. The distance, the coldness, the lifeless apologies, the way he avoided my touch but leaned into hers. He had never been mine. Not really. Our divorce was finalized 4 months later. He moved out. Lily stayed behind temporarily until she found a place closer to him. Or maybe with him? I didn't ask. I didn't want to know. But I found out anyway. Through social media. A photo of them together, smiling wide, her head on his shoulder. The caption read, "Sometimes your soulmate was in front of you the whole time." I blocked them both. But the pain lingered, heavy and sharp. I thought that was the end of my humiliation. I was wrong. 6 months after the divorce, I got a message from Lily. "Hey, I hope you're doing okay. I wanted to reach out because Ethan and I feel like there's a lot of tension and we'd love to clear the air." Clear the air, like they hadn't burned my life to the ground. She continued, "I never meant to come between you two. Our feelings just happened. Please understand that we didn't plan this. We tried to fight it." I laughed out loud, and they hadn't fought anything. They just waited until I wasn't needed anymore. I ignored her message. 3 days later, Ethan showed up at my apartment. Seeing him again made my stomach knot. He looked nervous, guilty, but not sorry. "I just want closure," he said. "I want us to be okay." "We're not okay," I replied. "And we won't be." He nodded slowly. "I figured, but I hoped maybe you'd want to stay friendly. For Lily's sake." I stared at him. "For Lily's sake?" He swallowed hard. "She wants you at the wedding." I almost choked. "What wedding?" He looked surprised that I didn't know. "We're engaged." My breath stalled. Ethan, I said quietly, do you hear how insane this sounds? You left our marriage for your stepsister, and now you want me to attend your wedding? He frowned like I was the unreasonable one. It would mean a lot to her if you gave us your blessing. I stepped back, stunned. No, absolutely not. He exhaled sharply and muttered, I knew you'd make this difficult. Difficult. I shut the door in his face. A week later, Lily posted a vague message online about jealous, bitter people who can't move on. I didn't respond. Not then, not ever. They can rewrite the story however they want, but I am finally free. I didn't lose my marriage. I escaped it, and I'll never again fight for someone who was never fighting for me.